pandemic has left a big impact on our society. Due to COVID-19, our world shut down for a good 3 months. With the slow pace of opening businesses back up to the public, many precautions have been taken. One of the biggest places to open its doors back up is theme parks, which are known, of course, for drawing in large groups of people with rides, arcades, and entertainment. Sesame Place theme park, located in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, has opened with a new set of rules and restrictions. PJ Schweischer, the events and production manager at Sesame Place, was able to sit down with me and talk about the overall effect the pandemic has put on the park. First, I wanted to start off with just asking about your story and how you ended up in the position that you are at Sesame Place.
Okay, so I went to school for musical theater at the Catholic University of America. I started working at Sesame Place when I was 18 as a performer, and it was sort of my way of getting supplemental income in between acting gigs. Well, really, it started as a summer job, and then when I graduated college, I did the whole acting thing, bounced around the country performing in everything from Shakespeare to musicals to children's theater. And Sesame Place was always sort of my in-between job. I always called it like kind of my way of waiting tables. Then I got to a point in my career where I was thinking more about the park than I was about auditions. So when an opportunity for full-time employment came up, I jumped at the chance, and it just seemed to fit all of my skills that I was interested in. I got to do, I wear many hats here at the park, so it was a chance to, kind of dive into all the areas I was interested in one place.
So what are some of the safety measures that have been put into effect during the pandemic?
So in terms of safety measures, there's kind of two categories that you want to think of. The first one is safety measures for the guests, and then the other is safety measures for the performers and our team members. So on the guest side of things, you always want to make sure that you're putting in, everything from social distancing markers to plenty of hand sanitizing stations, to, making sure that the guests feel that they can have a safe experience when they're coming to our park. Yes, it's very important to clean all of the theaters, but it's just as important, I feel like, in this day and age, especially when parents are involved, that the guests see us cleaning. So we implemented things over the coming year. When we reopened, every department had a sanitation team, and they were a group of team members that were just brought in to clean and visibly clean. They were given bright yellow, uniform shirts and hats in order to make it, and that was all in an effort. Was it a little bit of theater? Absolutely. But it also was just a way for the guests to see, like, yes, we are doing this in a way, that, you're not just taking our word for it, you visibly see it. Then on the entertainment side of things, we did things like, just because we're such an education based park, we implemented something called the Sesame Safety Squad, which was a strolling performance group that went around the park and encouraged people in fun ways to follow all of our COVID safety measures. But the biggest thing that we honestly did from a guest perspective in COVID safety is just limited our capacity. So usually, the park capacity at Sesame Place is somewhere in between 8,000 to 10,000 people. We limited that, based on the, current CDC guideline on how many people we could have in the park, and just cutting down the amount of people that we had allowed people the opportunity to stay spread out, so that, because if we were open at our normal capacity, physical distancing wouldn't be wouldn't be possible. So that's the first thing. The other thing that we had to contend with is how to keep our team members safe. So it was all the normal things, like making sure that there was enough space in the park that they could spread out at break times, that there was things in place like plexiglass at registers, and making sure that we gave them the proper PPE, that there were always disposable masks and uniform masks and gloves and safety goggles available, and that there was hand sanitizing station, not just in the park for our guests, but backstage for our team members. But in entertainment, there was a whole discussion about how we were keeping you guys safe with the costumes. So a lot of that, and it's everything from increasing the washing schedule on the costuming side. And then also Julie and Siobhan have been working really hard on the scheduling side of things to try to limit how many different people have to share a particular position. Because every time, if somebody is one role in a show, and then the next day another performer is the same role, that costume needs to be washed in between. So, and the costumers, we have a costume fleet of like 95 to 100 costumes right now, and and there's as many as 60 to 70 in circulation when we're open normally. It's not possible for all of them to be washed every night. So it's kind of the costuming team works together with the scheduling team to try to keep the schedule semi-consistent, so that we can cut down on the amount that we're washing the costumes. So there's a whole host of challenges, but that was definitely the biggest one. Going back to, and then again, just finding space for people to spread out. A lot of the times, and especially in entertainment, we're used to all kind of corralling in the same spot. Like there's a hot spot in this venue that we have called the Muppet Hut, where it's kind of the ground zero of entertainment, where everybody kind of hangs out. So trying to find areas of the park that needed to be closed, so that we could, encourage people to leave the Muppet Hut to stay physically distant, giving them another place to go. So we were kind of blessed that one of our theaters was unable to open, due to the amount of what the capacity was. It was just too small to even entertain the possibility of it actually having guests in there. So that was a huge blessing to us. And then this year, we're not using that theater as a venue or as a break area, because it'll be used as a special event location. But we've been able to find other areas of the park where our team members would be able to go. So it's kind of two ways you have to think of it. How are we keeping the team members safe? How are we keeping the guests safe?
Say an employee is coming into work and showing symptoms of COVID or has tested positive for COVID. What are the precautions taken?
So if a team member has been exposed to the virus, or has the potential to be exposed, there's a whole series of protocols that we follow. Number one is the team member is immediately sent home. If they're at work, if they're not at work, they are told to not to come back until they have a clean, they have a negative COVID test, and not either or, and there's been a certain amount of time that has passed where they don't exude symptoms. So even if someone tests negative, they still have to wait a certain amount of times, and that time frame has fluctuated with the CDC right now. But it's in addition to, they have to go a certain amount of times without symptoms before they're able to return back from work.
So I know that certain events in the park have had to be postponed due to safety concerns, like the neighborhood street party parade. So due to this, have there been any new exciting events created that keep the fun going for guests but still keep everyone safe?
So one of the most popular attractions we have here at the park is absolutely our neighborhood street party parade. Clearly a parade was out of the question when we reopened, because a parade, for the simple reason that parades cause people to gather, and in a world where you're trying to keep people physically distant, and you're trying to fit 2,500 people on a space that can really only accommodate 500, that it's just not going to be possible. So, and what we found is that brought the energy in the park down significantly. So we tried to find different ways to bring the energy and kind of make the park come to life. One of the first things that we did is we initiated character pop-ups on like a second story window, so that the buildings around the park started to come to life. We added sort of cavalcades, or we're calling them mini parades, which is essentially a parade, but it's a smaller version of the parade. It's only like 3 floats versus our regular parade, which has 10 to 11. And it's a limited amount of characters, and it's only like a 5-minute parade. So by the time people do start to gather, it's over and the crowd disperses again. And that really brought the energy to life. And then we also created a physically distant dance party experience where, there's a bunch of performers and characters on a stage that the guests are kept physically distant from. And then we use sort of these hula hoops to kind of keep the kids and the families physically distant. And it's in a pretty large area. So, and that was sort of a blessing, so that we can fit about 40 to 50 kids and families in that area. And there's even room for overflow. It's a pretty wide area. So that was kind of a gift, and that really brought the energy to life. So it was just trying to find ways that we could put things into the actual park itself, because we were so locked into like our kind of private feeling areas. So bringing all of that into the park, trying to find creative ways around the physical distancing, not around it, but how to include it in what we were doing. Like, what experiences can we create where physical distancing is possible was really the challenge. I think we found a good balance. Now I think what we're doing doesn't necessarily create as much energy as a parade would, but it definitely helped, and it's definitely almost there.
Sesame Place as of now is planning on remaining open on the weekends for the rest of April and May, then slowly opening up more days during the week starting in June. If you are planning on coming to Sesame Place, remember, there are still certain rules and regulations to keep everyone safe, including wearing a mask and staying socially distant. I'm Katelyn Dunkel from Hamilton, New Jersey. Have a sunny day.